hope it doesn't get out of hands. Just to also let you know that we have a couple of segments for you in the course of the show today, just to make your Friday special, and of course that should extend into your weekend. So this is us giving you our word that you will get return on investment as far as the time you spend with us here today is concerned. So I was just going to talk about some of the big stories of the week. For instance, of course, we do know that the River State crisis has been, if you like, the star story,
yes, it has
so to say. But that has also raised questions about the way we politic in this country, right?
Yes, but it has to do with, if I could call God Federalism, that comes into play, and loyalty comes into play, and who you are actually loyal to basically comes into play. The side in which you're on just speaks volume for itself when it comes to River State. And I just don't want to mention any name, but you know what is actually playing out.
Right.
And some just willing to stand on their guard to just do the right thing. You know, following the law constitutionally, it's very important.
I think that's a part where there's often a challenge. The options of whether to stay with the rule of law or go the other way. I mean, for Nigerian politicians, it's more of interest. It's more of the optics. It's more of your ambition, exactly. So the rule of law can wait while I pursue my interests. But again, when that is not the case, when the odds are against us, we continue to shout the rule of law. But we must have, I know asking for an egalitarian society is near impossible, it's almost unrealistic. But we must have a system where everybody, no matter how highly placed or influential they are, must be subjected to the rule of law, right?
Well, unfortunately, you know, it doesn't play like that in Nigeria. We, you know, in court, people say Nigeria is a corrupt society. People say that because some people feel they are above the law, and they feel, well, hey, I know law must prevail, but really there are some people that actually act above the law.
It's interesting. We're just going to take a quick look at a few other issues for you in the course of the show this morning. But let's take a quick break now. When we return, we'll be joined by guests via Zoom live from Port Harcourt, River State capital, to help look at some of the topical issues we're focusing on this morning on the show.
and ewedu, amala and egusi, amala and gbegiri, amala and efo riro, amala and afang soup, amala and ogbono. Yes, you can add any of your choice because the list is never ending. Hello and welcome. It's Sharon Ajay on Taste and Texture. Today we are gonna be all about amala. Amala is a brown dough-like Nigerian meal made out of yam, cassava, or unripe plantain flour. It is a staple swallow food popularized by the Yoruba ethnic group of the southwestern Nigeria and other parts of the Yoruba land. There are 3 different types of amala based on their different sources. They include amala isu, also known as yam flour, amala ogede, also known as plantain flour, amala lafun, also known as cassava flour. Amala isu, this is one of the most common types of amala. Yam tubers are sliced, peeled, parboiled, dried, and milled to powder form. It's prepared with boiling water to form a thick paste and is served with any desired dish. Amala ogede. This type of amala is made from dry, unripe plantain. The plantain is harvested, peeled, sliced, dried, and milled to a powder form. It's prepared by mixing with boiling water until it forms a thick paste and it's served with any desired dish of your choice. Amala lafun. Amala lafun is the type of amala that is made from dry cassava flour. Cassava flour, when dried, fermented, and flaky, can also be eaten as gari, which is used in preparing eba, another common dish in Nigeria. The texture of amala is soft, smooth, and slightly elastic with a distinct earthly flavor. The distinct earthly taste is the reason why it cannot be eaten alone without serving with soup or stews. In Nigeria, amala is not just food. It is a cultural identity. It is a symbol of the Yoruba tribe and it's often served at important events such as weddings and funerals. Well, you might be wondering, how do we make amala? Grab a seat, let's walk you down its easy process. First of all, we need a large pot which will be used to boil water until it reaches the rolling boiling point. Secondly, a scooping spoon. You will need this to serve the food in sizable portions. And lastly, a spatula. It's very, very important. It is used to roll and knead the amala into a dough. And now to the making process. Step 1, bring the water to a rolling boil. Step 2, turn down the heat to medium and stir in the yam flour, cassava flour as quickly as possible to prevent lumps until it becomes dough. Step 3, scrape down the sides of the pot, add a splash of water, then cover and let it cook for about 5 minutes. Step 4, stir again and add more water if needed until the amala becomes sticky, light, and elastic. Lastly, step 5, serve with your yummy choice of soup or stew. Easy, right? And now to its health benefit. Amala is rich in potassium, magnesium, dietary fiber, calcium, and carbohydrate. It has low cholesterol. It will help you lose weight if you take it in moderation. It is rich in iron and, like I said, carbohydrate. It has high dietary fiber that will help flush toxin out of your body. Vitamin A in amala lowers inflammation, helps in brain formation, and improves eyesight. Lastly, it is lightweight and has high water content, making it easy to digest. That's a wrap for today. Do well to make yours. Bye.
Oh, thank you so very much, Sharon Ajay, for bringing us Taste and Texture this Friday. For those of you who are huge fans of amala, like I am, you know where to turn now and how to get around it, don't you? Okay, I'm not so sure Juma is a huge fan. Yes, she is, but she has a different approach to it, which she probably will teach us one of these days. But we are being joined live from River State, Port Harcourt, Port Harcourt, River State capital via Zoom by Karibi Mina, public affairs commentator. Karibi, it's a pleasure to have you join us on the show this morning.
Good morning to you. I'm happy to join.
Thank you. So we're just going to raise the curtain basically by looking at concerns around insecurity across this country, even though we know for the most part, everybody wants to talk about the Northeast and the Northwest. But we do understand that several cities, several communities across Nigeria today cannot categorically be said to be safe. How exactly would you say we are handling this issue?
Just like you put it, Nigeria can hardly be said to be safe. Even Abuja, where you are broadcasting from, we have seen turbulence of insecurity virtually everywhere. Though somewhere that has been said to be relatively safe is Lagos State, because a few days ago the governors celebrated 4 years of no armed robbery and all that. But generally, in the northeast, northwest, southeast, it has been boiling points of different groups from ISWAP to Boko Haram to headsmen to different agitators. Either they are killing people, they're killing any public official. There's a distortion. Ritualists are operating, armed robbery, banditry. They have destabilized. In fact, Nigeria is presently a destabilized state. That is the fact of the matter. It is totally destabilized. The farmers cannot go to farm. People cannot freely travel on the highways. And we just look at these figures, and it's about the wars around the world. People look at the global fragile index. If you look at different figures that are coming up, even those war-torn areas like Israel and Hamas, and even Ukraine, Russia, they produce less deaths, less displaced people than Nigeria itself. Nigeria have produced more deaths from internal insecurity issues. So it's a precarious situation, and we just wish for the best, because this is why there's a nation. A nation is established to preserve lives, to ensure security, to ensure stability, to see that the structures and the system is stable, and to guarantee a level of peace. That's a nation. But any nation that cannot ensure this is said to be failing or called a failed state. So we have a new government, and some people may say 7 months is too early to begin to take
It will appear we're losing stream with Karibide, but he just highlighted a few points, trying to talk about the different kinds of, the insecurity that we have in this country, whether it's banditry or kidnapping. You mentioned ISWAP, terrorism, and so on and so forth. Again, that's again just highlights the evolution of this monster. We understand our guest is back up now. So you were making a point, very salient, but I want to take you back to the government of former President Muhammadu Buhari. We saw this series of meetings that the former head of state, if you like, had held with defense chiefs time and again. Then at a point, there were vehement calls for these service chiefs to be relieved of their jobs, and for the most part, Nigerians at that point had said the idea was to find new insights, find new methods, bring in fresh blood, new hands, and so on and so forth. Of course, at the twilight of his government, the president, the former president now, he did actually hearken to the voice of Nigerians. However, that effort didn't seem to have paid off much, because it became as they say, same old kind of situation. My question to you, Karibi, is in your own candid assessment, don't you think Nigerians, and indeed Nigeria as a country, are leaving the fight against insecurity altogether to the armed forces? Is that the way to go?
Like you call them, they are the armed forces. Nigeria is a country that prohibits the carrying of arms. So, and this insecurity is an armed, violent process whereby some people have arms illegally. In Nigeria, we have so many small and medium arms coming from, they say, from Libya and all over war-torn parts of Africa. Now, we need leaders, like you said. The former president was 8 years. You know, he was brought in, if you remember, because he was a general in the army, and he's said to have fought wars for Nigeria, and it was believed that he would stop this insecurity. But he came, and for 8 years, in fact, a system that was, you know, mostly at the northeast when he came in, is now widespread. Every region now has different insecurity threats to the nation's stability. I mean, not small insecurity that are threatening the stability of the very nation. So you talked about the president should have, the former president should have sacked the service chiefs and all that. Yes, if a person or a personnel is not performing, you know, that is what to do, and you begin to dig in as a leader. You begin to dig in at people that can perform. But as we look at these issues, a time came when, you know, even till now, whereby people die, and in fact, there's no statement from the president, there's no concern, no visitation by the president to the area that such large violence or such kidnappings or, you know, kidnapping of students or deaths are going on. It has become a norm now. So it's a system whereby every Nigerian should be concerned. The government should, you know, like what your station is doing now, government should be put on their toes to understand their role. The role of government primarily is to provide security, to provide stability, to make people feel safe in their, you know, in where that country is, in the particular geographical location. So a government, people, the president and the heads of the different organs of government, especially the executive, should be made to know that this is their role. Their role is to provide security, to be done by every news media. Let the executive begin to know their role, because actually, no country, I don't think there's any other country except for, you know, clearly defined war-torn areas in the world. You don't have such figures that will turn out in Nigeria. So you can imagine, it's a nation that's supposed to be at peace is at war. More war and more dangerous deaths figures showing out every day than even the declared war areas. So the bottom line is that, as hard as I wouldn't want to mention it, it is like we don't know, Nigeria does not know what they are doing. That's the truth. If a country can have insecurity issue to the tone that is more alarming than war-torn areas, of course, the country is just maybe just deceiving themselves, because it's better we are at war, which of all, God forbid, than to pretend that we are at peace. Yet we are at more war situation than the supposed war areas. So I think we need leadership. We need to settle leadership, that leadership question, both politically and in security matters in Nigeria. We need, you know, more security, more information-driven security. You know, a security system that can lead insecurity at the board. You know, that can solve the situation before they get out of hand. So that is what we need now. We need this because every day is getting worse. Every day is getting worse. I was looking at the particular figure that said Nigeria has over 40,000 deaths between 2009 when Boko Haram came and now, which of course, if you look at Israel Hamas, or which Israel has entered the Hamas territory killing people, Hamas government still put the figures at less than 20,000. So we see that we need salvaging. Actually, Nigeria needs salvaging so that the different regions can begin to live at peace and enjoy good governance.
All right, Mr. Karibi, I have a question to ask for most Nigerians. I know 7 months is too early for us to act or judge regards the service chiefs. Do you think they're making this effort in tackling security as we speak? Do you think there's like, okay, let's give them a little bit of kudos? Are they making effort when it comes to places in the northeast and places all around? Do you think they're actually making effort? I know they're new in office, but would you say that?
Yeah, if I would say the truth, so that everybody should, buckle up properly, I would score them below average. This is because when the security outfit, like the military or the joint military forces, are getting it right, you see it from their output. The recent output whereby they got, let me call it, error intel, whereby they went to bomb a village in Kaduna that killed, almost 200 people. The figures are put minimal about 100 or thereabout, but other figures later showing up. So you see that there's still a lot of disconnects. And when security is not about guns, it's about information, it's about intelligence, it's about being faster than those people that want to attack, So, but when we get these things wrongly, of course, the results show. And from the results we have on ground, we don't have any basis to score this government. I mean, their attempts so far, we don't have any basis to score them high, because when the military themselves are bombing the citizens, we talk less of the insurgents and others doing their own activities. In fact, as at yesterday, we even read of foreigners, Cameroonian commandos, attacking a certain village in Cross River State. Is it the one? Several attacks, even yesterday, 2 days ago. So the attacks have not abated. So we cannot say they are even working. I'm sorry to say this. You cannot say they are working because the attacks have not abated. We are even seeing new ones. Cameroon, they have never attacked us. Now, some miscreants from Cameroon just enter a village, set a village ablaze, in a Nigerian village. So the story is still as it were. That is the fact we have on ground.
Taking our time to talk to us this morning, you shared those invaluable insights on insecurity in the country. Thank you, and we hope you have a great weekend ahead of you.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to always join you. And yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, everyone, and we'll continue this conversation around insecurity because it's a long, drawn-out conversation.
Yes, it is.
And there are still several angles, several factors in it that we still haven't looked at. And as we move on into the show this morning, we'll take a look at all of those. We'll take a quick break, everyone. Up next will be the Global Morning News.
So this was so emotional.
ewedu, amala and egusi, amala and gbegiri, amala and efo riro, amala and afang soup, amala and ogbono. Yes, you can add any of your choice because the list is never ending. Hello and welcome. It's Sharon Ajay on Taste and Texture. Today we are gonna be all about amala. Amala is a brown dough-like Nigerian meal made out of yam, cassava, or unripe plantain flour. It is a staple swallow food popularized by the Yoruba ethnic group of the southwestern Nigeria and other parts of the Yoruba land. There are 3 different types of amala based on their different sources. They include amala isu, also known as yam flour, amala ogede, also known as plantain flour, amala lafun, also known as cassava flour. Amala isu, this is one of the most common types of amala. Yam tubers are sliced, peeled, parboiled, dried, and milled to powder form. It's prepared with boiling water to form a thick paste and is served with any desired dish. Amala ogede. This type of amala is made from dry, unripe plantain. The plantain is harvested, peeled, sliced, dried, and milled to a powder form. It's prepared by mixing with boiling water until it forms a thick paste and it's served with any desired dish of your choice. Amala lafun. Amala lafun is the type of amala that is made from dry cassava flour. Cassava flour, when dried, fermented, and flaky, can also be eaten as gari, which is used in preparing eba, another common dish in Nigeria. The texture of amala is soft, smooth, and slightly elastic with a distinct earthly flavor. The distinct earthly taste is the reason why it cannot be eaten alone without serving with soup or stews. In Nigeria, amala is not just food. It is a cultural identity. It is a symbol of the Yoruba tribe and it's often served as
Hello to our viewers in Nigeria and around the world, to Global TV AM News. We are in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Anthony Momodu. President Bola Tinubu has approved the removal and replacement of some chief executive officers of agencies under the Federal Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development. This was disclosed in a statement by presidential spokesman Jirin Gelale on Wednesday night, stating that the decision was in line with the president's determination to bring world-class standards to Nigerian civil aviation in consumer protection and promotion of the well-being of Nigerian passengers as well as other sectoral stakeholders. The chief executives of the agencies are Managing Director of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, Kabil Mohammed, Managing Director of the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, Nema Tayyib Odunowo, Director General of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Engineer Akinola Olaturu, Director General of the agency. Federal universities, polytechnics, and College of Education have been taken off from the Integrated Personnel Payment System, IPPRS. Minister of Education, Professor Tahi Manman, disclosed this while briefing State House correspondent alongside other ministers on the outcome of the FEC meeting, adding that it takes immediate effect. Oye reports.
The federal government in 2006 introduced the IPPRS as one of its reform initiatives for the effective storage of personal records, saying the move would improve transparency and accountability. The exemption approval reached during FEC's meeting at the Presidential Villa in Abuja comes as a relief to tertiary institutions across the country. According to the Minister of Education, FEC also observed that vice-chancellors of universities need not abandon their work to come to Abuja to process the salaries of their personnel.
A very happy day for the education sector because one of the problems which the vice-chancellors, rectors, and provosts of College of Education, those managing the tertiary sector in Nigeria, have been complaining about have been the subscription to IPPS. You know what IPPS does? And which has made recruitment and many other activities of the university relating to personnel very, very difficult. Now today, today's council, it has been decided, the president has directed that vice chancellor should no longer or have been taken out of that service. So this is a very, very important development for the vice chancellor that will allow for efficient management of the universities and tertiary education, generally speaking. And then secondly, which is connected to that, before now, when the tertiary education institutions want to make recruitment, they have to run to the office of the head of service, you know, for waiver, for approval, for all that sort of thing. Today too, the council, through the directive of the president, has exempted them from that, they will have nothing to do. They don't have to go to the office of the head of service because it is actually not in their line of supervision.
Earlier, President Bola Tinubu has sworn in Dr. Musa Aliyu as substantive chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, following his confirmation by the Senate. Others are Nantu Abdullahi, Shehu Aliyu, Rokeyat Odekunle, Princess Sarah Shosho, and Dr. Festus Oyebade. The president personally administered the oath of office on the new appointees whose appointments were recently confirmed by the Senate in accordance with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Uyi Agbomofwegbe, reporting for Global Television News.
The Nigerian Army said it has arrested the commander of the Indigenous People of Biafra's Army affiliate, the Eastern Security Network, Uche Chukwu Akpa, in Agu local government area of Enugu State. The military, in a release on Thursday, added that 3 other suspected members of IPOB ESN, who are Udoka Ude, Ikechukwu Olanta, and Izenya Odegwere, were also arrested. According to the military, the 4 suspects were apprehended after the hideout located at Christ the King Catholic Church in Ameta, Igbowo of Agu local government area was raided. It added that Akpa sustained gunshot wound while attempting to flee, while 4 live cartridges were also recovered from the suspects. The federal government of Nigeria on Thursday said stemming the causes of gender-based violence requires citizens' participation at all levels. This was at it reviewed ongoing plans with states to provide mobile courts for the swift administration of justice in GBV cases nationwide. The Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy, disclosed this at the launch of the Civil Society Organization on Community Advancement and Humanitarian Empowerment Initiative in Abuja on Thursday. She further emphasized that her call to every citizen to take up the battle against violence is due to the increase in cases of gender-based violence in the society. Acting Governor of Ondo State, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has called for renewed unity for significant and accelerated development in the state, as envisioned and pursued by Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. Aiyedatiwa made the call in a statement broadcast to the people of the state on Thursday in Akure, the state's capital. The State of House of Assembly on Wednesday pronounced Aiyedatiwa as the acting governor of the state as Akeredolu continues to recuperate from illness. He said what happened in the past was a temporary delay in the democratic journey, urging members of the State Executive Council to come together and support him to deliver the dividends of democracy as trustees of the people with whom common humanity is shared. The acting governor appealed to the people of the state to continue to pray for Akeredolu's quick recovery. The chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukayode, has called for urgent and unconditional return of Nigerian stolen assets stashed in foreign countries. According to a statement posted on the Commission's X handle on Wednesday, Olukayode made the call on Tuesday at the ongoing 10th section of the Conference of State Parties to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption holding at the Georgia World Congress Center, Atlanta, in the United States of America. According to him, the return of stolen assets warehoused in foreign countries has become imperative for the growth of the economy and expansion of frontiers of development within and outside Nigeria. Rivers State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Professor Zacchaeus Adago, has resigned. His resignation was communicated in a letter dated November 14, 2023, and addressed to Governor Sim Fubara. He noted that his exit from office was based on personal principles and not connected to the political crisis currently rocking the state. Global Television will keep tracking developments in Rivers State for our viewers. In the meantime, Governor Sim Fubara, backed as Speaker of Rivers State House of Assembly, Edison Ehi, has declared vacant the seats of 27 lawmakers who defected from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressive Congress, APC. Ehi had on Tuesday obtained a court order to carry out legislative business without interference by a rival group led by Martin Amawule, buoyed by the court's protection. Ehi's faction, which has only 4 members, met and declared the seats of the defected lawmakers vacant before receiving Governor Fubara, who presented 800 billion naira appropriation bill for the 2024 fiscal year. While the budget presentation was going on, the Rivers State government was demolishing the assembly complex, whose integrity, it said, was compromised during the explosion and fire incident which occurred at the complex in October during an attempt by some lawmakers to initiate impeachment proceedings against Governor Fubara. Rivers State Governor Sim Fubara has signed into law the 2024 appropriation bill of 800 billion naira into law. This is coming a day after he presented the budget estimate to the State House of Assembly led by Edison Ehi. The signing ceremony was held on Thursday in the conference room of the governor's office at the Government House. Fubara had joined his presentation to the Assembly, said the 800 billion naira budget for the 2024 fiscal year was aimed at promoting economic development through inclusive growth and addressing socio-economic inequality in the state. He added that from the 800 billion naira, 392 billion 485 million 433,000 constitute a recurrent expenditure of 361,598,242,570 naira 85 kobo and a capital expenditure of 410,266,483,000 485,019 naira 64 kobo. Details will be coming more. The Kebbi State government on Wednesday distributed 26 operational vehicles to members of the State Executive Council drawn from 21 local government areas of the state. Distributing the vehicles to the commissioners in Birin Kebbi, the state capital, Governor Nasir Idris warned that any commissioner who sells or uses the vehicles for unofficial engagement would be sacked, saying the government is making history again because it is handing over 26 vehicles to commissioners to ease transportation challenges in their official engagement. They will also be used for the commissioners to visit their localities to find out the challenges there. The Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Abubakar Garba Dutsimari, who spoke on behalf of his colleagues, assured the governor that the vehicles would be used strictly for the purpose they were meant for. And still in the news, the Commissioner of Police deployed to Lagos State Police Command, Adegoke Fayode, has assumed duty. A statement by the Lagos State Police Public Relations Officer Benjamin Hayudeyi confirmed this on Thursday. Fayode is taking over from Idowu Owohunwa, who was recently promoted to the rank of an Assistant Inspector General of Police and redeployed to the AIG Force Criminal Investigation Department, Annex Alagbun, Lagos. Hundeyin Fayode, an indigene of Osun State, joined the Nigerian Police Force on May 18, 1992. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Education and History from Lagos State University, a Master of Public Administration from the University of Lagos. The leadership of the Association of Local Government of Nigeria, ALGON, has converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, to discuss ways of ending what it termed the anti-developmental trend of appointing caretaker committees and sole administrators to oversee the affairs of local governments in Nigeria by governors, in sharp contrast to conducting elections as provided by in the Constitution. The administrators unanimously agree that governors must conduct elections for the growth of local government areas. Global TV correspondent tells us more.
President of the association, Kolade Alabi, noted that the only way citizens at the grassroots can benefit from good governance is to conduct consistent elections.
The resolution of United European Union that countries should embrace decentralized policy, that is, proper devolution of power to the local authorities. Otherwise, the countries will not be able to access the 500 billion euros.
He made a strong case for adherence to the sections of the Constitution that specifically border on the conduct of elections to decide who steers the ship of leadership at local government level.
During our visit to the National Assembly, I reiterated the importance of Senate cooperation in achieving decentralization and total autonomy for local government administration. You will all agree with me that the downstream removal of subsidies and its ensuing consequences have undeniably caused hardship. However, we remain optimistic that these sacrifices will yield positive outcomes as there are no gains without pains.
Local government administrators from Delta, Kogi, and other states lent their voices on the benefit of grassroots elections into local government positions.
The importance of democracy, or the definition of democracy, is government of the people, by the people. Therefore, it will be very wise and good if local government will always have a democratically elected representative. That will give way for maybe managing the local government resources effectively and efficiently. And equally, if you look at all this issue of security challenges, it will be very good if you have democratically elected people. They will take care of their people. But once local government is always under caretaker committee chairman, it's somebody that will be given 6 months. You don't have time to plan, talk less of executing it. So therefore, the importance of election in the local government is very, very important and is paramount.
The current move by the National Assembly to repeal the laws backing state government's interference in the administration of local government is, amongst other things, crucial and dicey. Anthony Momodu reporting for Global TV News.
The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has announced the pre-qualification approval for the agency's Yaba Laboratory, Lagos State, as a central drug control laboratory. The Director General of NAFDAC, Mojisola Adeyeye, disclosed this at a news conference in Abuja on Thursday. She stated that the World Health Organization had recently approved the CDCL, adding that the approval of the laboratory for the agency was a significant milestone in its dedication to ensuring the safety and quality of pharmaceutical products. The new Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, Adegoke Fayode, has assured the provision of watertight security during and after the Christmas and New Year celebrations in the state. Fayode gave the assurance on Thursday while interacting with the newsmen after taking over as the new CP in Lagos Command. Fayode took over the baton of leadership from Wahid, who was the acting CP, stating that the command was going to work in synergy and with other security agencies to secure all areas of Lagos through the air, land, and water. When AM News returns, COP28 ends with agreement on swift, just, equitable fossil fuel transition. The news continues shortly with details of these and more stories right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. The United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP28, rounded off Wednesday with an agreement that signals an end to the fossil fuel era via laying ground for a swift, just, and equitable transition underpinned by the deep emission cuts and improved financing. In a demonstration of global solidarity, negotiators from nearly 200 parties came together in Dubai with a decision on the world's first global stocktake to scale up climate action before the end of the decade and an overarching target to keep global temperature limit within 1.5 Celsius. The GST is considered the central outcome of the meeting as it contains every element that was under negotiation and can be used by countries to develop stronger climate action plans by 2025. In the short term, parties were encouraged to come forward with ambitious economic-wide emission reduction targets covering greenhouse gases, sectors and categories that align with 1.5 Celsius limit in their next round of climate action plans, known as nationally determined contributions by 2025. South Korea's military said Thursday it scrapped fighter jets as 2 Chinese and 4 Russian military planes entered its air defense zone, an area wider than the country's airspace. The Chinese and Russian planes entered and exited the Korean Airspace Defense Identification Zone in the East Sea, also known as the Sea of Japan, from 11:53 a.m. to 2:53 GMT to 12:10 p.m., Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff said. But there was no invasion of airspace. It added, and the South Korean military identified the planes before they entered the KADIZ and deployed Air Force fighter jets to take tactical measures in preparation for contingencies. An air defense identification zone is a broader area than the country's airspace in which it tries to control aircraft for security reasons. Still, the concept is not defined in any international treaty. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning described the incident on Thursday as a routine flight activity. China and Russia are North Korea's traditional allies, and Washington warned last month that the military ties between Pyongyang and Moscow were growing and dangerous. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen on Wednesday backed imposing sanctions on extremist Israeli settlers responsible for attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank. Von der Leyen's comment come after European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said on Monday that he would put forward a proposal to sanction the West Bank settlers.
We must give Ukraine what it needs to be strong today so that it can be stronger tomorrow at the table when it is negotiating a long-lasting and just peace for Ukraine.
In business, the House of Representatives Committee on Solid Minerals Development has made a case for scaled-up budgetary allocations to the Ministry of Solid Minerals Department for the 2024 fiscal year to bolster the mining sector's contribution to diversification of the economy. At the budget defense session of the Ministry of Solid Minerals Department, the Chairman House Committee on Solid Minerals, Honorable Jonathan Brefield, asserted that Nigeria possesses the solid minerals required to attract the needed foreign exchange to grow the nation's economy and substantially contribute to her gross domestic product (GDP). Fauzia Lukman has the details.
In the 70s, the solid mineral sector was accounting for over 50% of contributions to the GDP as against today, where it is only contributing a measure of 0.65% to the GDP. However, the present administration says it has placed priorities on the solid mineral sector for more revenue generation. Chairman House Committee on Solid Minerals stated that his enthusiasm about the impending revamp of the mining sector dampened upon receiving the 2024 budgetary estimate of the ministry, which he declared as grossly inadequate to make any significant impact in the very critical sector. The House Committee Chairman consequently pledged the House of Representatives' resolve to not only substantially increase budgetary allocations to the mining sector, but also work with executive to institutionalize reforms through the requisite legislative framework.
The House of Representatives will not rest on its oars to form strategic partnerships with the executive, the minister and all the agencies to make sure we make good on the oath of office we swore to at our respective inaugurations. To this end, we have taken proactive steps to put up motion and bills that will strengthen and bring about reorganization and restructuring in line with the 7-point agenda of the Honorable Minister.
In his presentation, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, stated that the commitment of the federal government to diversify the nation's economy through solid minerals. He emphasized that at least 44 economically viable minerals have been discovered, asserting that the imperative of sanitizing the sector and providing an enabling environment for mining operations cannot be overemphasized.
In today's world, there is a general clamor, global clamor for energy transition into green energy. So, the meaning or implication is that fossil fuel, hydrocarbons, oil, petroleum, that we rely solely on is no longer in fashion and is going out. And in a couple of years down the line, if we are not careful, we may find ourselves as a society in an economic dire straits.
To sanitize the mining environment, the minister revealed that issues of insecurity is being tackled with interagency collaborations alongside the Minister of Defense to create a new security architecture that will feature an infusion of a huge dose of technology.
The nation and previous administrations had shut their eyes against this gold gold, in quotes, that we have under the ground. In fact, you yourself know more than I do, Mr. Chairman, that when you do a comparative analysis of the countries that survive on solid minerals in today's world, they are numerous. And some of them don't even have these minerals as much as we do.
Alake recalled the conceptualization of his 7-point agenda on the assumption of office, followed by his efforts to redirect local and global attention to the mining sector, which he noted has so far generated far-reaching global interest in Nigeria's mineral resources. Fauziya Lukman, Global TV News.
A World Bank report has indicated that Nigeria's poverty level has taken a notch higher at the backdrop of its recent economic and fiscal reforms. The key reforms include the removal of petrol subsidy and the foreign exchange market rate restructuring. The bank, however, commended the federal government for what it considered bold reforms necessary to rescue Nigeria from fiscal cliff, describing the current pains as temporary. But it also said the policies have created intense pressures on cost of living, which have pushed more Nigerians into hardship, with 104 million now living below the poverty line. The World Bank report also indicated that the number of poor people in Nigeria had grown from 95 million in 2021 to 100 million in 2022, while the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics (NBS) indicated that the figure was 82.9 million in 2019 and 85.2 million in 2020. It further stated inflation remains the record high level for Nigeria, 27.3% year-on-year in October 2023. And that's how we call it a wrap on Global Television AM News. I am Anthony Momodu saying good morning.
You're watching Global Morning here on Global Television. We just want to give you some heads up as to what's yet ahead of us on the program this morning. We'll be looking at the state of security in Nigeria, the need to secure the country, and what's more work, how much more work we need to do as a government, as a people, to ensure that we continue to take practical responsibility for the security of our dear nation. We also want to look at the situation on the ground in Rivers State, and in particular look at the elements around the politics and governance of that state. We know what has happened there in the last couple of days. Wednesday, some people have said, brought the whole crisis to a head. We will also discuss that in the course of the program today. We have big stories coming from across our national dailies that we also would like to bring your way. The whole idea is to get you ahead of the news this morning and indeed this entire weekend. Let's quickly join Anthony Momodu for Sports Update.
Hello sports fans, welcome to Sports News Updates. Chelsea and Arsenal have been dealt a major transfer blow as striker target Victor Osimhen is set to sign new contract with Napoli. The Nigerian international has scored 6 goals in 11 Serie A games this season and is set to be rewarded for his good form. At just 24 years of age, he is a key asset for Napoli after he proved to be critical in their title-winning season last campaign. Both Arsenal and Chelsea are reportedly in the market for a striker, especially Chelsea, who have been eyeing a January move for the player. Osimhen has scored an impressive 66 goals in 116 appearances for the Naples team after joining for a club record fee of £69.5 million from Lille in 2020. The Gunners have enjoyed a strong start to the season, but with Eddie Nketiah not a proven goal scorer in their side, Arteta could look for reinforcement within Arsenal's pacey and fluid attack. Osimhen could well prove to be the key to Arteta's side winning the league. Meanwhile, for Chelsea, who sit in the bottom half of the Premier League table, a player such as Osimhen could be critical for their revival. Their recent signing of Nicholas Jackson has proved to be an ill-fated experiment, with Christopher Nkunku returning soon for the Blues. However, Todd Boehly could wait before he splashes the cash on the Napoli striker. For much of the game, as Newcastle led AC Milan, it seemed as if Eddie Howe's team was heading for the last 16 of the Champions League alongside European aristocracy like Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and the new kings of the competition, Manchester City. But then, after Joelinton's sumptuous first-half strike, Milan rediscovered their poise, equalized through Christian Pulisic, and caught the winner through Samuel Chukwueze of Nigeria, and suddenly it did not matter what was happening in the match between Borussia Dortmund and PSG, and suddenly the widest dream seemed a little further away. Defeat meant Newcastle did not even have the consolation prize of a place in the Europa League. Sir Jim Ratcliffe could look to replace Eric Ten Hag with Graham Potter when he takes control of football operations at Manchester United, according to reports. The Ineos billionaire is thought to have met with former Chelsea head coach as part the Sun and rates the ex-Brighton coach highly. Mail Sport reported that Ratcliffe is not currently considering sacking Ten Hag, but will reassess the situation should Manchester United fail to turn around their disappointing form. The Red Devils crashed out of the European competition following a dismal 1-0 defeat by Bayern Munich at home on Tuesday night and are also out of contention for the Carabao Cup after losing to Newcastle United. And wrapping it up, talking boxing, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder have a deal in place to meet in a long-awaited clash on March 9, 2024, according to reports. The two heavyweights have been circling one another for years, but boxing fans had to be content with the news that Wilder and Joshua will be featuring on the same card but not against one another. Instead, both the fighters will headline the upcoming Day of Reckoning on December 23rd in Saudi Arabia. Joshua is set to square off with Otto Wallin, while Wilder will go toe-to-toe with New Zealand's Joseph Parker. That's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.
Let's turn to the papers for you, everyone. Look at stories that are sizzling this morning. So you have some insights into the direction of news today. And for the weekend, I'm joined by my colleague here at Good World Television, senior anchor Anthony Momodu. It's a great weekend coming already and it's upon us. And there's no better time to have conversations around topical issues than now.
Definitely, we've seen the president take some very sweeping changes, especially in the aviation sector.
Right.
No one saw it coming, but I think it shows a statement of fact that the president is indeed ready to make changes and put Nigerians in a very good stead to, enjoy the dividends of democracy. The fact that he said he wanted Nigerian passengers to be catered for delayed flight compensation to come from the airlines and co. It shows you that he means what he's saying.
Excellent. So let's take a look at the Punch newspaper, because I was also thinking, like you called them, sweeping changes in the aviation sector. We hope those changes are also extended to other critical sectors, especially for people who say, well, their economic status probably doesn't allow them fly. All right. So what's aspects of the dividends of democracy will they be enjoying, whether in health, in basic infrastructure, amenity, of course, education, and so on and so forth. First big story is coming from the Punch this morning, quite visible on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Fuel price rejects World Bank's 750 naira per litre proposal, NLC warns FG. Labour says fresh price hike will lead to anarchy. FG insists subsidy has been removed. Tinubu government fears unrest, subsidizing fuel secretly. Marketers allege project 1,000 naira per litre. Anthony, the conversation around the price of fuel has been a long time coming, and now it's never been more controversial. 1 minute to say fuel price has been removed. The next thing we hear is that, the issue of, fuel is still being exactly, secretly, and so on and so forth. So ultimately, what that means is that the government needs to be transparent, maybe a bit more transparent with where they are with fuel subsidy removal. What are your thoughts?
I think, there's what they call confidential, when things are confidential, and for the sake of the nation, some informations are not given out. For this day, I think there's a very deep controversy as regards, is there still subsidy or there has been subsidy removal? If you look at the two sides of the coin, at a point you believe that, yes, there is subsidy removal, but on the flip side, you feel like there's some subtle way of subsidy is still there, because the fact that the government knows that, okay, there's going to be outcry, breakdown of law and order when there's an increase like the World Bank is proposing, it means they don't have a choice but tactically subsidize the importation of fuel. And that's why you hear at times the marketers say, okay, there's subsidy still in place. And you would not blame the government completely because they want for peace to reign, they want to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians. They would be forced to subsidize the fuel being brought into the country. I think there's no complete removal of subsidy.
Again, that's falls short of the president's promise coming on the 29th of May saying fuel subsidy is gone. So it is not gone in that sense.
I think he was just in a hurry to make a statement to just like we saw the previous president when he said he's for everyone, he's not for anybody. So I think
again that was a May 29th statement.
Yeah, so I think that he was just trying to replicate that kind of action, but I think he did it too early because he had not gone into the game, like we say in football, to see what was on the pitch. He was saying it from the sidelines, but when he got into the pitch of play, he discovered that, okay, it's not as easy as he thought it was. That's why most times you see, we had the former president also did say after certain months he was going to wipe away Boko Haram, but he never did. Instead, it got worse under his administration. So I think Bola Tinubu was too early to make that pronouncement, and he's finding it quite difficult. You can see when he came to the IPPIS, he repealed that law. So it tells you the former president also got certain policies very wrong. And because of probably pride, he didn't want to take back his words. And that's why he insisted that policy stayed put.
It's interesting, very interesting. Just to talk about, I mean, you said it was too early in the day for the president to have made that announcement on the 29th of May this year. There are also people on the street now saying that that pronouncement was not even part of the speech, the prepared speech he was supposed to read. We cannot, of course, independently verify that, but from the symptoms, so to speak, that we have now seen following the aftermath of that pronouncement, it's now clear that the government had not made adequate preparations, if at all, in that regard. And then there's also the argument by economists saying that, look, this is not a policy. I mean, the removal of fuel subsidy is just a pronouncement, because their argument is, if it has been a policy, you would have a framework in place. You would have timeline. You have KPIs. The government only told us once that, look, we had saved over 400 billion in the last 4 weeks from the removal of the subsidy. So if you do the math, basically, what you're looking at is maybe savings of 100 billion every other week. But then between June and today, nobody is talking to us again as to how much we have saved, how we are saving, and what we are doing with those monies. The only thing we hear is, well, government is talking with the subnationals, that is with the states, in terms of saying this is how much we have saved and this is how much we are keeping and how much we are giving back to the states. And the impression those in government, especially the president aides, are giving to the public is that, well, whatever we save from subsidy removal is part of the monthly allocation that goes down to states and local governments.
I think there's no proof to the fact that where those monies go to. And even the fact that they mentioned 400 billion was saved was just for the cameras, just to support the removal of subsidy. And going forward, they could not continue giving us update as regards how much has been saved and where those monies have been plugged into, because the savings did not amount to that 400 like earlier stated. So it was just the excitement of that move, trying to prove a point that, okay, we can remove subsidy and it's easy to be done and not necessarily so difficult that the other administrations couldn't do it. They just wanted to score those political points earlier in the day. But right now, the way it looks, because the fact that the World Bank came out to tell us that NNPCL has not been transparent in their remittance and declarations also tells you one thing, that the federal government indirectly is also not transparent, because the NNPC is technically run by the presidency. And so if the World Bank says that, it tells you that the government has been economical with the truth. Because if the World Bank has said, raise your petrol prices to X amount to make things work, then, but the government has been subsidizing and not making full blast the amount. So it tells you even the independent marketers have been more honest than the government, because they've always told us that this amount the government is asking them to sell fuel products, it's not realistic.
Well, that's a story that's ongoing, the NNPC and the accusations of how that agency of government has not been audited for several years. I mean, for those of us who followed the news in the last 1 week, I'm sure we understood the imports of the statement made by the former CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, when he talked about how that as of when he came into office, the NNPC had not been audited for 15 years. Even former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, had also said that at the point that the NNPC had not been updated for a couple of years. I mean, that was an APC governor in an APC government, both in the state of Kaduna and at the federal government. And this was also, I mean, the GMD of the NNPC appointed by an APC president. So it shows you how much of work the NNPC has to do to prove itself. I mean, you can't have the CBN saying one thing about the NNPC. You have natives saying the same thing about the NNPC. You even have, I mean, prominent figures inside the government saying the same thing about the NNPC. You have civil society saying the same thing about the NNPC. You have the World Bank saying the same thing about the NNPC. And all the NNPC can put up by way of defense is, we don't want to be distracted. We are staying focused. Who is distracting you? It's part of your job to be transparent to Nigerians. I mean, you can be held accountable.
It's very, very impossible for NNPC to be transparent.
Yeah. It's impossible? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's impossible. If you look at the number of years without being audited, if there's going to be a thorough and forensic probe of the NNPC, lot of heads is going to roll, and most of these heads are very influential people. They've made deals with multinational companies, so it's like indicting a lot of multinational companies, which is going to be hard to do because corruption is endemic in Nigeria. Lots of people have soiled their hands. A lot of ex-presidents, including Buhari, because he was in charge of the NNPC before it was unbonded. So there's going to be lots of questions as regards the role he played for this period. And the truth is that there might have been some deals which he wasn't aware of. We remember when he had issues with his health and we were told that he could barely recognize things or remember things. So those shady deals that have gone down under his watch, he'll be made to account for it. And because they know he might not be able to account for it, they'll remember off your mic episode at the National Assembly. So that is going to play out. And the fact that Mele Kyari still remains the GMD of NNPC, it tells you there's something creepy. Why should he consistently? And if you look at the people, it's looking like it's now meant for the northern region. Remember Okachukwu when he was there for a while.
Of course, in his capacity as Minister of State.
And we knew he had the capacity because he was in that industry. He was technically, subtly, eased out. And there were lots of cries as a guy, why did they take him out, knowing fully well that he had the capacity? He also did make some statements. So it just shows you there's so much debt in the NNPC.
Interesting. The Ibe Kachikwu episode is an interesting one because it was around that same time that he had this back and forth with the former GMD of the NNPC. Of course, that was long before the unbundling of the entity. And then we also understood that there was an open letter I wrote to the president at that time, and it brought about so much of controversy, and somehow it was let out through the back door. And today, Nigeria has become a country where it's almost impossible to have a substantive Minister of State. I mean, Minister of Petroleum means that you have Minister of State. And now that has even been altered because you have the Minister of State, upstream, Minister of State, downstream, gas, and so on and so forth. I think
what they are doing is trying to share the national cake. When I attended one of
So we are deinstitutionalizing access to the national cake.
What I noticed was you had those from the northern region being at the helm of affairs, and you had other Nigerians at the other back end of the whole deal. So it's very obvious that what they did was, okay, we know that mineral resources come from the south-south, and we will not let you guys be the ones calling the shots. We'll be the ones at the top, so that whatever policy or whatever is going to be, we will have control over it. I think that was a smart thing the northern region did, because if you look at all the eggheads in the oil sector, that's mostly from the northern region. And you ask the question, why is it that those who produce this natural resources seem not to have a strong say? Why?
I'm sure that question is on his two knees begging for an answer, Anthony. But let's look at a couple of headlines for you from the Punch newspaper this morning. Still, just above the nameplates, it says Assembly factions hold parallel sittings with a rider that says APC False Rivers Court verdicts vows to petition NJC. That's on page 18 of today's Punch newspaper. Of course, Nigerians by now should be used to parallel sittings by state houses of assembly. We know of a state, for example, like Edo, where even the roof of the House of Assembly had been removed at the time. The man who was Speaker of that assembly at the time is today a member of the House of Representatives. But the impact of that damage that had been done then is what the state and its people have had to pay for up until this point, because at that point we realized that the proclamation of the House of Assembly was not properly done. They didn't follow due diligence. There were members of the House of Assembly, about 6 of them, who had not duly been invited. So the House was proclaimed at night. We even saw a member of the House who had to come in shorts. All right, because the gentleman apparently was busy doing his thing, and then he was hastily invited to come be part of it. Because you would, as is always the case, have the faction loyal to the governor, not to the state, to the governor. Yes, of course, you have the other faction. I mean, whoever the faction is loyal to. Of course, we understand the other faction was also loyal to Adams Oshiomhole, who is the immediate past governor of the state. Exactly, the Godfather factor. And it's meant that at least 6 constituencies in that state did not have representation at the House of Assembly for that entire 4-year period. Now, while we will, of course, our hearts go out to those gentlemen or those ladies who are supposed to represent their constituencies, the more important thing to be concerned about is the impact of this, the implication of it for the constituents, who, for no fault of theirs, did not have representatives.
And I think it's very sad that the political party concerned do not come out and make any effort towards trying to resolve this or trying to make them see reasons why this is inimical to democracy. And for the people too, I think for the people themselves, the electorate, I think they also have not done much to try to wade into this matter. Like every time there's such issues covered, let's see protests, let's see them take the protests not just to the House of Assembly, come to Abuja, come to the party secretariat and see how
picket it.
And picket it. Probably that will force the party to make a statement, force the state branch to probably do something and come to try to stop the craziness going on.
Anthony, now that you've mentioned the party, you're talking from an idealistic perspective. I mean, that's the ideal thing that should happen. Bad news is we have almost never had an ideal situation around here. It's always about which party wants to be in power, which party wants to capture or recapture power. It's always been about whose interest should we serve.
But one party is supposed to be an opposition, so that should be an advantage for them if the people come out to say, this is what we want. That should give the party that leverage to
exactly, and take advantage of that goodwill and then drive the narrative. But we've never seen that. Again, there's this thing about motive and motivation, right? The question we should be asking ourselves, Anthony, is what motivates the political parties? Whose interests are they driving? Are they running? I mean, we know, for example, of how you now see, of course it's been like that for years, members of a state House of Assembly being tied to the apron strings of a governor because he's the one who pays the piper, so he tells them what song should be played, whether or not they should even dance to it. So once the money comes in, I mean, it's crazy how you hear that the governor is sharing 50 million each for several members of the House of Assembly, and then he's giving them cars just to ensure that he has them in his corner. And once that is done, these otherwise representatives are not as interested anymore in the pursuits of, if you like, legislation, quality representation for their people, as they now are engrossed trying to serve the interests of their paymaster. So again, that's a discussion for another day, whether or not we have independent houses of assembly in these states. Edo State comes to mind readily. Ondo State comes to mind readily. Of course, we also had seen that happen in several other state houses of assembly, including the one we saw in Lagos when Governor Sanwo-Olu sent names for screening, commissioner nominees to his screened.
But I think the opposition parties at this point, that's where they're supposed to come in strong. Take that, draw the attention of the people to say, okay, see what's happening and see what the reaction of the party you voted into power, see what they're doing. They're not concerned because they are, they are loyal to the governor and not to you. Probably if they do that consistently, make the electorate understand, okay, what's really playing out, get them really involved, so that in the next political elections, the people will remember and probably make them have a change of mind voting the main political parties and give the younger parties that seem to have an ideology or seem to have persons who would have the interests of the people at heart a chance to govern. So I think opposition parties or parties who have lost and seen this play out should latch on this and try to make a name for themselves.
Anthony, I'm sure the issue of opposition in this country, whether or not it is effective, is a conversation for another day altogether. But let's take a look at a few more headlines from the foot of the Punch newspaper this morning. 32 states budgets 14 trillion naira for roads. In a year's time, we probably will be here taking a look at what this 14 trillion naira budget has turned into and how many states have actually been able to turn the fortunes around in terms of road infrastructure for their people. Customs generates 70% revenue from Lagos, says Controller General. Of course, that should not shock anybody who understands that Lagos is the commercial nerve of this country. Let's not be deceived by oil. All right, kidnappers return to Lagos, abduct 2. National Assembly probes $496 million Itakbe, Iran Ore. Okay, so that's again another case of alleged corruption there. But let's flip to this day newspaper. Above the nameplates of this day, it reads Tinubu having Tinubu, having Akpabio Abbas at my side as NAS leaders enough to make me succeed. The writer says, assembly, not an appendage of executive, says Senate President. Of course, we all know how that these two gentlemen, Akpabio and of course the Speaker Abbas, have always been in the President Tinubu's corner. And now the President can make bold to say, look, for the fact that these guys are with me, I have nothing to fear. Success is for me to take. Right. But again, the executive, I mean, the President of the Senate is now saying, look, we are not an appendage of the executive. Is that explanation necessary? I mean, under normal circumstances?
I think it's just playing to the gallery. We all know what's happening. We can see, we've heard over time. But the only good thing is that knowing the president, and if the president means well, and he's taking the right policies like he did in the aviation sector, and the policies are for the good of the Nigerian masses, then we are good with them being an appendage to him. But it's when the policies or whatever he asks from the National Assembly serves only the interests of the elite. That's when probably we would say, okay, we're not comfortable with them parleying with the executive. The most important thing is let whatever policy, whatever laws they are bringing, let it benefit not just those at the top of the food chain, but those below the food chain, because that's very key.
Okay, AMCON is back in the news, but this time it says AMCON recovers over 1.8 trillion naira, says it remains profitable year on year. FG vows to award oil assets to only companies with proven capacity in future bid rounds. Several riders accompanying that headline says era of delay of license extensions, ministerial consent over. What else? Assures producers of enabling policies to attract investments, ramp up production. How Tinubu lobbied heads of states over Nigeria's OPEC quota raise. Presidency, $13.5 billion investment expected in energy sector in 12 months. The countdown begins. Investor uncertainty persists 2 years after PIA passage. IPPG bemoans. Okay, those are big stories for you this morning. Then by the side, just the right-hand corner of the front page of this day, Fubara signs 800 billion naira budgets into law. We understand that proposal was presented to 4 members of the State House of Assembly yesterday, right there in the government house.
It's at times I feel some of these things are laughable when they do this. I wonder how they, relate with the corporate world, their kids, their families. It's looking at you presenting as much as 800 billion naira appropriation bill to 4 persons only. I think the international community will laugh at Nigerians when they see such stories. It's not done anywhere. I don't know why he's in a hurry to present it. They could as well just have waited till the seats of the other 27 members.
But the man's house is on fire, politically speaking, so why should he wait any more minutes?
Well, he has destroyed the House of Assembly because that's the only way he can get impeached, so he could as well just wait while the constitution is going on. The elections, the call for the elections, a quick one, and it's done, then you can now get to say, okay, I'm making the presentation of the 800 billion 2024 appropriation bill to the House members. It makes more sense. It gives it more credibility than, because right now it's obvious that he's doing it in a rush because he wants to just secure his side of the bargain.
Okay, then let's see. Vanguard is our next port of call, everyone. Let's see what the Vanguard has got for us this morning. Rivers crisis, Assembly factions flex muscles. All right, it's got about 8 riders with it this morning, so you can read it up for yourself on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Bank deposits surged in 2023 to 64.26 trillion naira. Then above the nameplate still, there's a story with a picture of the president there. Patriotism will put Nigeria on right path. Yes, Mr. President, that's, nothing is more true than that. But Nigerians at this point, more than ever before, need exemplary leadership. All right, okay, what's more? It says, World Igbo Congress urges Supreme Court to free Nnamdi Kanu unconditionally. You'll find details of the story on page 11 of today's Vanguard newspaper. And by the way, we understand that Nnamdi Kanu will be at the Supreme Court this morning. Be sure that Global Television will bring you all of those details in the course of our broadcast today. We have another headline here that says, how to reform Supreme Court, Sanwo-Olu, Alogba, Olani Meko. We are glad everybody is on the same page now as to saying that reforms in the judiciary have never been more crucial. Inflation, exchange rates to drop in 2024, that's according to the CBN. Aviation Minister sacks all directors of NAMA, NCAA, NIMET, others. We understand replacements have been announced for them just 2 nights ago. Ekiti bloody robbery. We've recovered 3 vehicles. Police, COVID-19 resurgence in Benue. Reports a misrepresentation of WHO's statement. That's according to NCDC. And then the Daily Sun is where we are looking at next. Daily Sun says 2024 INEC protests 40 billion naira allocation, demands 89 billion naira, declares allocation inadequate. Tony, let's spend the next, who knows, maybe a minute or two talking about INEC and funding. I may not have a handle on the economics of prosecuting elections, but from what we see, ultimately, INEC doesn't seem to have had issues with funding compared to other agencies.
Yeah, and it's understandable why. We know it concerns the politicians and the political parties, and they will do everything to ensure that, because they know that somehow, probably they get some kickbacks. They know that this elections concerns their destiny, and it determines whether they're still in power or not. So they would not want any hitches. And so whatever INEC wants, she gets. But the truth remains, INEC has not shown that these monies that has been allocated to them has been well spent in terms of giving us fair, credible elections. So the fact that we always have a lot of tribunal cases after every election tells us that INEC is not doing using the monies rightly. We remember that every time there's an election, the off-cycle elections, for instance, there's always the issue of materials not arriving at the right time. Always having, okay, there's issue with the VIBA and other equipment used for the elections. So that alone makes it very worrisome that they've not been able to get things right in terms of transportation, because if you're giving so much money, having the transportation sites figured out already should be a thing of the past, because consistently the time frame of the elections, what time, so you should have made those preparations knowing how much you've got. In terms of security, we also have a lot of issues in terms of security, then the ad hoc staff also. These are things, training of the ad hoc staff. Most times you notice when during collation of results, there are always some anomalies that plays out, and voter education, and also for the political parties, the fact that their party agents and other party members also default in terms of what is expected of them also tells you that INEC has not really sensitized these stakeholders on the right thing, on what the laws says and what is expected of them. So you wonder the monies that are meant for sensitization, you only see it happen 2 weeks to the election. You only hear them have stakeholders meeting a week or two to the election. This is supposed to be ongoing, but it shows you that those monies, probably INEC just feels, okay, the money, once the elections are over, they don't bother about any other issue. So I think INEC, they need to probe and tell us how they spend these monies and why they will need 89 billion, and what are the key factors that they have looked into to just say, okay, the 40 billion is not enough already, without giving a breakdown to say, okay, this is why the 40 billion is enough.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Incidentally, we're just going to take a quick break, everyone. We still have a few more papers to look at for you, but then we have 2 discussions right up ahead of us. After this break, you'll meet my first guest. Do stay with us.
insecurity in Nigeria, we always tend to use force. Although briefly for a while, and that was during the first term of President Muhammad Buhari, we seem to have some form of reprieve. But then again, we have seen an evolution from the different forms of violent extremism that we have been experiencing in Nigeria. For instance, Boko Haram has morphed into different factions, and then you also have this new prevalence of ISWAP. And moreover, you also have the issue of the terror bandits, where people are being kidnapped and returned for ransom, sometimes not returned in some cases. So we do have a different plethora of insecurity, from the unknown or unknown armed gunmen